The blood on my hands wasn't mine. Never was. I stood in the marble bathroom of my penthouse suite overlooking the Chicago River, watching crimson water spiral down the drain. Another problem solved. Another loose end tied. In my world, mercy was a weakness that got you killed, and I hadn't survived 32 years by being soft. They called me the Dragon of the North Side. Kim Lee, the youngest underboss in the Korean-American syndicate's history. I controlled everything from the Magnificent Mile to Pilsen, every smuggling route from Lake Michigan to the rail yards. Cops looked the other way. Politicians answered my calls. And my enemies, they stopped breathing. But none of that prepared me for what I was about to discover about the quiet woman who cleaned my blood-soaked floors. It was a Thursday night when everything changed. I just returned from a sit-down in Manhattan with the 5 families. Old Italian money trying to edge into my territory. The meeting hadn't gone their way. My 3-piece Tom Ford suit had barely a wrinkle, but my knuckles were raw. Occupational hazard. I walked into my Gold Coast penthouse expecting the usual silence, order, and my evening whiskey waiting on the side table like always. That's when I heard it. Soft gasp. A muffled whimper of pain. I moved silently toward the laundry room, my hand instinctively reaching for the Glock at my waist. In my line of work, unexpected sounds meant threats. But when I pushed open the door, I found something that stopped me cold. She was reaching up to place fresh towels on the top shelf, and her uniform shirt had ridden up, exposing her lower back. What I saw made my blood run colder than any hit I'd ever ordered. Scars. Not just 1 or 2, but a roadmap of old violence. Some thin as paper cuts, others thick and raised like mountain ranges across her skin. Burns. Flesh marks. The unmistakable pattern of cigarette burns forming a constellation of cruelty. Before we go on, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from because we absolutely love hearing from our global family spread across the world. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button because trust me, another story you cannot afford to miss drops tomorrow. Bertha Dupree jumped when she realized I was there, yanking her shirt down so fast she nearly knocked over the laundry basket. Her face went pale, those dark eyes wide with something I recognized too well, fear. But not the kind of fear my enemies showed. This was deeper, older. The kind of fear that lives in your bones long after the danger has passed. "Mr. Lee, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you come in," she stammered, backing toward the wall like a cornered animal. "I'll have your whiskey out in just a moment." I was just. "Who did that to you?" The words came out harder than I intended. I'd spent years perfecting the art of intimidation, but right now I wasn't trying to scare her. I needed to know. In a city where I controlled violence like a conductor controls an orchestra, someone had carved suffering into this woman's skin, and she'd been walking through my home for 6 months while I'd never noticed. She clutched the laundry basket to her chest like a shield. "I don't know what you're talking about." I stepped closer and she flinched. That movement, that tiny involuntary recoil, hit me like a gut punch. I'd made men twice my size flinch, but this was different. This wasn't respect or fear of my power. This was trauma. "The scars on your back," I said softer now. "Who put them there?" Bertha's jaw tightened, and for the first time since she'd started working for me, I saw steel underneath that timid exterior. "With respect, Mr. Lee, that's none of your business. I do my job. Keep my head down. My past is my own." Any of my crew would have been knocked across the room for talking to me like that. But I found myself respecting it. She had boundaries even here, even now. That took guts. "You're right," I said, surprising both of us. "But you're in my house. Under my roof. That makes you my responsibility." "I'm not your responsibility. I'm your employee. There's a difference." She moved to step past me, but I blocked her path without thinking. Not threatening, just there. Close enough that I could smell the lavender detergent on her uniform and see the faint tremor in her hands. "What's your story, Bertha Dupree?" I asked quietly. And don't give me the bio from your employment application. That was so clean it was obviously scrubbed. I know a fake background when I see one. Her laugh was bitter. You want my story? Fine. I was married once. To a man who loved me one day and broke me the next. Who told me I was his queen while he burned me with his cigars. Who promised me the world while he locked me in a basement for 3 days because I smiled at a grocery store clerk. When I finally ran, I ran far. I've been running for 4 years. Chicago was supposed to be far enough. But men like my ex-husband, they have long arms and longer memories. The matter-of-fact way she said it gutted me. No tears. No drama. Just flat, exhausted truth. What's his name? Why do you care? Was a fair question. I'd built my empire on not caring. On seeing people as assets or obstacles, nothing in between. Caring got you killed in this business. But standing there, looking at this woman who scrubbed blood out of my floors and never asked questions, who kept fresh flowers in the foyer and always left my coffee exactly how I liked it, I found I did care. And that terrified me. Because nobody hurts what's mine. The words hung in the air between us. Bertha's eyes widened, searching my face for something. Understanding maybe or clarification of what I meant by mine. Hell, I didn't even know what I meant. She was my maid. That's all. That's all she could be. You can't fix this, she whispered. You don't understand. Dominic, that's his name, Dominic Moreau. He's connected. He's got family in the Boston Irish mob, the Moreau crew. They run everything from Southie to Back Bay. If he finds out where I am. The Moreaus. I almost laughed. I know Mickey Moreau. We do business. He's a small-time operator who thinks he's a kingpin because he controls some docks and runs numbers in Dorchester. Dominic is Mickey's nephew. His enforcer. That gave me pause. Enforcers were the muscle, the ones who did the dirty work. If Dominic Moreau was Mickey's enforcer, he was dangerous. But more importantly, he was touchable. When did you last see him? 2 weeks ago. Her voice cracked. I was at the grocery store on State Street. I looked up and he was just there, watching me from across the produce section. He didn't approach. Didn't say anything. Just smiled. That smile that says, I know where you are now. I quit my apartment the next day, moved to a shelter. That's why I asked if I could start living here, in the staff quarters. I told you my old building had a fire. That was a lie. 2 weeks. She'd been carrying this terror for 2 weeks, sleeping in my house, cleaning my rooms, and I'd never noticed. Some dragon I was. Pack your things. You're moving to the main guest suite. The one with the reinforced door and the panic button that connects directly to my security team. Mr. Lee, I can't. You can and you will. Consider it a condition of employment. I pulled out my phone, already texting my head of security, Park Sung-ho. Sung-ho will do a full sweep. If Moreau or any of his people come within a mile of this building, I'll know. Bertha stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I should have had an answer. Good one. But the truth was I didn't know. Maybe it was because I'd seen too much violence in my life and wanted to stop it for once instead of cause it. Maybe it was because when she looked at me, she didn't see the dragon of the north side. She just saw a man. Or maybe, God help me, it was because in 6 months of her quiet presence, my sterile penthouse had started to feel like something close to a home. Let's just say I don't like people taking what's mine without permission, I said instead. And right now you work for me. That means you're under my protection. The look she gave me was complicated. Gratitude mixed with suspicion, hope tangled with disbelief. Protection from one dangerous man offered by another. Ironic, don't you think? I never said I was a good man, Bertha. But I keep my word. Always. That night I made calls. First to Tommy Yoon, my consigliera, A man who'd been with me since we were running protection rackets in Koreatown as teenagers. I need everything on Dominic Moreau. Boston Irish mob, Mickey Moreau's enforcer. Current location, known associates, dirty laundry. All of it. Boss, why are we digging into the Moreaus? We got that truce with the Irish crews after the shipyard incident last year. Because one of theirs is hunting someone under my roof. There was a pause on the line. Tommy knew what that meant. In our world, territory wasn't just geographic. It was personal. I'll have it by morning. Next, I called Marcus Chen, my operations manager who handled the legitimate side of my businesses. The restaurants, the real estate holdings, the import-export companies that laundered our money. I need a full background check on Bertha Dupree. And I mean full. Not the surface-level employment screening. Everything. The new maid. Boss, she already cleared our standard vetting. I know what she cleared. Now I need to know what she hid. I hung up and poured myself that whiskey I'd been craving since I walked in. The amber liquid burned going down, but it didn't wash away the image of those scars. I'd seen plenty of violence in my 32 years. I'd ordered most of it. But there was something about violence against the defenseless that hit different. It was cowardly. And I hated cowards. An hour later there was a soft knock on my office door. Bertha stood there, changed into simple jeans and a sweater, a small duffel bag at her feet. I just wanted to say thank you, she said quietly. I know you don't have to do any of this. You're right. I don't. I gestured for her to sit, but she remained standing. But I'm going to anyway. Tell me about him. About Dominic. Everything. She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then she sank into the chair across from my desk, and the story spilled out. They'd met 7 years ago in Boston. She was working as a nurse at Mass General, and he came in after a bar fight. Nothing serious, just some stitches. He'd been charming, attentive, everything she thought she wanted. The courtship was a whirlwind. Flowers every day. Poetry. Promises. They were married within 6 months. The first time he hit her was on their honeymoon in Miami. She'd worn a bikini to the beach, and he'd accused her of trying to attract other men. He'd apologized afterward, blamed the stress of the wedding and work, bought her a diamond bracelet. She'd believed him. The violence escalated slowly. Slap became a punch. Punch became cigarette burns. He'd isolated her from her friends, her family. Made her quit her job. Told her that if she left, he'd kill her. And then he'd kill anyone who helped her. She'd believed that too. The scars on your back, I said. What caused those? Her voice went flat again. A belt. His favorite one with a metal buckle. He'd get drunk and decide I needed to be taught a lesson. Sometimes because I overcooked dinner. Sometimes because I looked at him wrong. Sometimes because it was Tuesday. My hand tightened around my whiskey glass until I thought it might shatter. I tried to leave 3 times, she continued. Each time he found me. The last time he broke 2 of my ribs and my collarbone. Kept me locked in our basement for a week. No food. Just water. Said he was teaching me about loyalty. She looked up at me, her eyes dry but haunted. When I finally got away for real, I had help from a women's shelter in Providence. They gave me new documents, a new identity. Bertha Dupree isn't even my real name. What is your real name? She shook her head. That woman died in that basement. I'm Bertha now. I understood that. In my world we all had names we left behind. He won't touch you again, I said. I promise you that. You can't promise that. You don't know him. No, but he doesn't know me either. And that's his mistake. The next morning, Tommy showed up with a file thick enough to kill someone if you threw it hard enough. We spread it across my desk. Surveillance photos, financial records, known associates. Dominic Moreau was exactly what I expected. A mid-level enforcer with delusions of grandeur and a trail of complaints from women that mysteriously disappeared from police files. The Moreau family had deep pockets and deeper connections in Boston PD. "He's been in Chicago for 3 days, Tommy said, pointing to timestamps on security footage from O'Hare. "Staying at the Palmer House. He's been watching your building." That made my blood boil. Watching my building. Last 2 nights. Parks across the street in a black BMW. Sits there for hours. Sung Ho's team spotted him but didn't know he was a threat until now. I studied the surveillance photos. Dominic Moreau was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of pretty boy features that probably charmed women easily. But his eyes were cold. Predator's eyes. "Set up a meeting. Tell him I want to discuss a business opportunity." Tommy raised an eyebrow. "Boss, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to have a conversation. Like civilized people. You've never been civilized a day in your life. There's a first time for everything." The meeting was set for that night at one of my restaurants in River North. Upscale Italian place called Rossi's that fronted as legitimate but had a private room in the back where we handled business. I made sure Bertha was safe in the penthouse with 2 guards I trusted with my life. Then I went to deal with her nightmare. Dominic Moreau walked into Rossi's like he owned the place, which immediately annoyed me. He wore an expensive suit that didn't quite fit his frame right and too much cologne. His smile was all teeth and no warmth. "Mr. Lee, I've heard a lot about you," he said, extending his hand. "The Dragon of the North Side. Impressive operation you got here." I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I gestured to the seat across from me. "Sit." His smile faltered slightly, but he sat. Tommy and 2 of my guys stood by the door, a subtle reminder that this was my territory. "I'll get straight to the point," I said. "You're looking for someone. Woman. And you've been watching my building." His eyes narrowed. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence. You're in my city, stalking a woman who's under my protection. That's a problem. Under your protection." He leaned back, that predatory smile returning. "Let me guess, Bertha. Is that what she's calling herself now? Bertha Dupree." He laughed. "That's creative. She always was creative with her lies. She's not lying about what you did to her." "What I did." His voice rose. "That ungrateful bitch is my wife. I have every right." He didn't get to finish. My fist connected with his jaw before I consciously decided to move. He sprawled backward in his chair, blood trickling from his split lip. "Let me make something very clear," I said quietly, standing over him. "She's not your wife. She's not your anything. And if you come near her again, if you so much as think about her, I will make you disappear in a way that ensures no one ever finds enough of you to fill a coffee can. Do you understand?" Dominic wiped the blood from his mouth, and his expression turned ugly. "You think you scare me. You think because you run some operations in Chicago that means something to me. My family has been in the game since before you were born. Mickey Moreau doesn't take threats lightly." "I'm not threatening Mickey. I'm threatening you. There's a difference." "She belongs to me," he snarled. "I'll find her. Always do. And when I do, you won't." I pulled out my phone and showed him photos. Him getting on the plane in Boston, him at the Palmer House, him parked outside my building. "I have eyes everywhere. You take 1 step toward her and you're done. Not arrested. Not roughed up. As in past tense. As in your Uncle Mickey gets a box full of your teeth and nothing else." For the first time I saw fear in his eyes. "But now you're going to get on a plane back to Boston tonight," I continued. "You're going to tell Mickey that the situation is resolved, that you made a mistake coming to Chicago, and that you're staying out of Illinois permanently. If I hear you're even thinking about coming back, I'll kill you myself. Loli. Do we have an understanding?" He wanted to argue. I could see it in the set of his jaw, the rage in his eyes. But he also knew I meant every word. In this business, you learn to tell the difference between a bluff and a promise. I didn't bluff. Fine, he spat. She's not worth the trouble anyway. And Dominic, I said as he stood to leave. If you think about hiring someone else to do your dirty work, remember this. I have friends in Boston too. Friends who owe me favors. Friends who would be very interested to know that Mickey Moreau's enforcer likes to beat women. The old Irish code doesn't look kindly on that, does it? They're old school. Honor and all that. How do you think your uncle would react to that kind of embarrassment? His face went white. It hit the mark. The Irish crews, especially the old guard like Mickey, had rules. Women and children were off limits. A man who broke that rule was worse than a rat. Dominic left without another word, and Tommy closed the door behind him. You think he'll stay gone? Tommy asked. For now. But men like that don't change. Eventually, pride will override common sense, and he'll try something stupid. When he does, we'll be ready. When I returned to the penthouse, it was past midnight. I expected Bertha to be asleep in the guest suite, but instead I found her in the kitchen making tea. She looked up when I walked in, questions in her eyes. Is he gone? She asked quietly. For now. What did you do? I explained the situation in terms he could understand. She set down her mug, and I saw her hands were shaking. Kim. Mr. Lee. I don't know how to thank you, but I need you to understand something. Men like Dominic, they don't just give up. He'll come back. If not now, then later. And when he does, he won't get through me. You can't protect me forever. Watch me. The words came out harder than I intended, and she took a step back. But not because she was afraid of me. I was starting to learn the difference in her reactions, the flinch of trauma versus the step back of someone asserting boundaries. I'm not some damsel in distress who needs saving, she said firmly. I've survived 4 years on my own. I can keep surviving. I know you can. But you don't have to. Not anymore. We stood there in my kitchen at midnight, an impossible distance between us that had nothing to do with the physical space. She was right to be wary. I was a dangerous man who lived a dangerous life. Getting close to me made her a target in a different way. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this woman, with her quiet strength and her terrible past, was somehow already under my skin. Why are you really doing this? She asked. And don't give me that line about protecting what's yours. I'm your maid. You barely knew I existed before yesterday. She was wrong about that. I'd noticed her every day for 6 months. The way she hummed while she worked. The way she always left a single rose in a vase on my desk. The way she made the sterile penthouse feel lived in. I'd noticed, I just hadn't admitted it to myself. Maybe I'm tired of only destroying things, I said finally. Maybe for once I want to protect something. Someone. I'm not a project, Kim. I know. But maybe you're the first good thing I've encountered in years, and I'm selfish enough to want to keep you safe. Her eyes widened. That's the first time you've called me by my name. Just Bertha. Not Ms. Dupree. I hadn't realized. Is that okay? A small smile tugged at her lips. It's more than okay. The next few weeks settled into an unusual rhythm. Bertha continued working during the day. She insisted on it, said she needed normalcy, but the dynamic between us had shifted. I found myself coming home earlier, making excuses to be in the same room. We'd have dinner together sometimes, and she'd tell me stories about her life before Dominic. She'd wanted to be a trauma nurse. She loved poetry. She'd once dreamed of traveling to South Korea to see the cherry blossoms. I told her things too. About growing up in Seoul until I was 8, when my family emigrated to Chicago. About my father, who'd been a small-time loan shark for the Korean mob and got himself killed when I was 15 over a debt dispute. About building my empire from nothing, earning respect through fear and blood because that was the only currency that mattered. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked one night over dinner. I'd ordered Thai food from my favorite place in Chinatown, and we were eating straight from the containers. "The life you chose." "I didn't choose it. Chose me." My father's debts became mine when he died. I could have run, but running meant dishonor. So I paid them back the only way I knew how. By becoming worse than the men he owed. I should have been offended, but her tone was curious, not judgmental. By becoming strong enough that no one could hurt me or mine again. There's a difference. Is there? She set down her chopsticks. You hurt people, Kim. For a living. I hurt bad people. People who hurt others first. There's a hierarchy in this world, Bertha. I operate by rules. I don't hurt civilians. I don't deal drugs to kids. I don't force women into prostitution. Half the guys I've taken out deserved it long before I got to them. And that makes it right. No. But it makes it necessary. She was quiet for a long moment. I should hate you. You know that, right? Everything you represent, everything you do, it's violence. And I've had enough violence in my life. I know. But I don't hate you. Her voice was soft. I should, but I don't. Why not? She looked at me with those dark eyes that had seen too much. Because when Dominic hurt me, he told me it was because he loved me. 'Cause I was his. You hurt people, but you're honest about it. You don't dress it up as love. And you've shown me more genuine kindness in 3 weeks than my husband showed me in 7 years. I'm not kind, Bertha. Maybe not to most people. But you are to me. Why? I didn't have a good answer. Or maybe I did, and I wasn't ready to say it out loud. Everything changed on a Wednesday night in November. I was in a meeting with suppliers from Los Angeles, negotiating terms on a shipment coming through the port of Long Beach, when my phone buzzed. Sung Ho's name flashed across the screen. He knew better than to interrupt unless it was critical. I stepped out of the meeting. What is it? Boss, we have a situation. Someone tried to breach the penthouse. Bertha's safe, but what? It wasn't Dominic Moreau. It was a professional. Russian based on the tattoos. He had a photo of Bertha and a contract. My blood turned to ice. A contract. Who put out a hit? We're finding out now. But boss, this is bigger than some jealous ex someone wants her dead, and they're willing to pay serious money for it. I ended the meeting immediately and raced back to the penthouse. When I burst through the door, I found Bertha in the living room, flanked by 2 of my guards, looking pale but unharmed. The would-be assassin was zip-tied to a chair in the corner, blood dripping from a broken nose courtesy of Sung Ho. Are you hurt? I asked Bertha, checking her over even though I could see she was fine. I'm okay. I was in the kitchen when your security team intercepted him. I didn't even know anything was wrong until it was over. I turned to the Russian, a thick-necked man with prison tattoos crawling up his arms. Who hired you? He spat blood on my floor. Go to hell. I pulled my gun and pressed it against his kneecap. Wrong answer. I'll ask once more. Who hired you? The Bratva doesn't give up clients. The Bratva sent you for a domestic dispute. That doesn't make sense. I looked at Sung Ho. Search him. Everything. They found it in his jacket. A business card with nothing but a phone number. I dialed it on speaker. A man's voice answered. Irish accent. Is it done? This is Kim Lee. The Dragon of the North Side. And no, it's not done. In fact, your boy here is about to have a very bad night. Who is this? There was a pause, then a laugh. Lee. Mickey Moreau here. Look, this isn't personal. It's business. Business. I felt rage building in my chest. You put a hit out on a woman in my house and call it business. My nephew came back from Chicago with his tail between his legs, talking about how the mighty dragon claimed his wife. That's a humiliation I can't let stand. Bad for the family reputation, you understand. So I figured make the problem go away, and we all move forward. The problem, I said slowly, is a woman your nephew spent years torturing. And now you want to finish the job because of pride. She's a loose end. Dominic's embarrassed. The crew's questioning his authority. Easiest solution is to eliminate the source of embarrassment. I looked at Bertha, saw the color drain from her face as she realized the full scope of what she'd escaped. This wasn't just about a violent ex-husband. This was about mob politics and male ego. Here's what's going to happen, Mickey, I said calmly. You're going to call off any and all contracts on Bertha Dupree. You're going to tell your nephew that if he so much as thinks about her again, I'll personally deliver him to your doorstep in pieces. And you're going to accept that this matter is closed. And why would I do that? Because I know about the shipment you've got coming through Logan Airport next week. The one with the pharmaceuticals you're not licensed to import. The one that would bring the attention you can't afford. I know because I have people everywhere, Mickey. Even in Boston. Especially in Boston. The silence on the other end was deafening. How did you? It doesn't matter how. What matters is that we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Easy way, you walk away and we all pretend this never happened. Hard way, I make a phone call, your shipment gets seized. And the feds start looking very closely at Moreau family operations. Your choice. You're bluffing. I rattled off the flight number, the cargo manifest code, and the name of the customs official Mickey had bribed. Still think I'm bluffing? Another long pause. Fine. The contract's off. But Lee, this isn't over. You can't protect her forever. Watch me. I hung up and looked at the Russian. You're going to walk out of here and tell your bosses that the job was impossible, that Kim Lee's security is too tight, and that it's not worth the trouble. If I hear that the Bratva or anyone else makes another attempt on this woman's life, I'll hold you personally responsible. We clear? He nodded, wisely staying quiet. Get him out of my sight, I told Sung-ho. When they were gone, Bertha stood slowly, her arms wrapped around herself. It's never going to end, is it? I ran from Dominic, but I can't run from the entire Boston Irish mob. Mickey Moreau has resources. How long before he tries again? He won't. You don't know that. You can't know that. She was right. I couldn't guarantee her safety forever. But I could make sure anyone who tried to hurt her paid a price so high it wasn't worth attempting. Come with me, I said, leading her to my office. I unlocked a drawer and pulled out a passport, a bank card, and documents. New identity. Clean. No ties to Bertha Dupree or to your real name. 24-hour security detail. A house in Seoul if you want it, or anywhere else in the world. You can disappear for real this time. She stared at the documents like they were a snake about to bite her. You're sending me away. I'm giving you a choice. Freedom. Real freedom. And if I don't want to run anymore, then you stay. But staying means accepting that danger comes with proximity to me. My enemies become your enemies. The life I lead, it's violent, bloody. Not everyone survives it. I know what your life is, Kim. I've been washing blood out of your shirts for 6 months. Exactly. You've seen enough violence. You deserve peace. She stepped closer, and I could see tears building in her eyes. What if I don't want peace? What if I'm tired of being a victim, of running, of hiding? What if I want to fight? You don't mean that. Don't I? Her voice rose. For 7 years, Dominic made me feel powerless. Broken. These past few weeks with you, I've felt alive again. Protected, yes, but also seen. You see me, Kim. Not the scars. Not the frightened woman. You see me. Bertha. I love you. The words hung in the air between us like a grenade with the pin pulled. I should have stepped back. Should have reminded her about Stockholm Syndrome or trauma bonding or any of the psychological reasons why her feelings weren't real. But I couldn't. 'Cause I felt it too. "You can't love me," I said roughly. "I'm not a good man. I've killed people. I'll kill again. I'm going to hell when I die, and anyone close to me risks going there too. I don't care. You should. I've already been to hell, Kim." Dominic made sure of that. "At least with you I'd be choosing it. Making my own decision for the first time in years." I wanted to argue. Wanted to push her away for her own good. But when she reached up and touched my face, her palm warm against my cheek, I was lost. Kissed her. Not gently. Not sweetly. But with all the pent-up want and fear and desperate need I'd been suppressing for weeks. She kissed me back just as fiercely, her hands fisting in my shirt, pulling me closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, I rested my forehead against hers. "This is a mistake. Then let's make it together." That night, we crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. In my bedroom overlooking Chicago's glittering skyline, Bertha Dupree, the woman whose real name I still didn't know, became mine in every sense of the word. And somewhere in the tangle of sheets and whispered confessions, I became hers too. The next morning, Tommy showed up with more intel on the Moreau situation. He took one look at Bertha having coffee in my kitchen, wearing my shirt, and raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Mickey's calling for a sit-down," Tommy said. "Neutral territory. He wants to discuss terms." Terms. He's offering a truce. Real one. Says the whole thing with Dominic got out of hand, and he wants to make amends. I looked at Bertha, who'd gone very still. "What do you think?" "I think Mickey Moreau doesn't do anything without an angle," she said quietly. "He's planning something." She was probably right. But refusing the meeting would escalate tensions. And that meant all-out war with the Irish. I'd win eventually, I always did, but the body count would be high. "Set it up," I told Tommy. "But I'm bringing backup. A lot of it." The sit-down was scheduled for neutral ground in Milwaukee, a city where neither the Koreans nor the Irish held significant power. It was cold enough that the lakefront was nearly deserted when I arrived with Tommy and 4 of my best guys. Mickey Moreau was already there, standing by the water with his crew. He was older than I expected, maybe mid-50s. With gray hair and the weathered face of a man who'd seen too many winters and too much blood. Dominic stood beside him. His jaw still slightly swollen from where I'd hit him weeks ago. "Lee," Mickey said, extending his hand. This time I shook it. "Thanks for coming. Let's skip the pleasantries. What do you want, Mickey?" He gestured for his crew to step back, and I did the same with mine. Just the 2 bosses now, talking business like civilized men. Except we both knew there was nothing civilized about this. "Look, I'll be straight with you," Mickey said. "The contract on the girl was a mistake. I let family politics cloud my judgment. Dominic here." He shot his nephew a withering look. Made certain claims about his marriage that turned out to be exaggerated. "Exaggerated," I repeated flatly. "He tortured her for years. So I've come to understand. And that doesn't sit well with me or the old guard. We have rules, Lee. Lines we don't cross. Dominic crossed them, and he'll face consequences within the family for that." I looked at Dominic, saw the humiliation burning in his eyes. But I didn't trust this. "So you call off the hit, discipline your nephew, and we're supposed to just move on?" "Not quite." Mickey pulled out an envelope. Inside is the name of every contract killer I contacted about the girl. 6 in total. I've personally called each one off and made it clear that anyone who touches her answers to me. Consider it a gesture of good faith. I took the envelope, flipped through it. Names I recognized. Professionals. Mickey was telling the truth, at least about this. And in exchange, I'm asking for a favor. Nothing now. But someday when I need something in Chicago, you'll take my call. Fair. It was a devil's bargain. A blank check that Mickey could cash whenever he wanted. But it also meant Bertha would be safe. Really safe. The entire Boston Irish mob standing down was better protection than anything I could offer alone. One condition, I said. Dominic Moreau never sets foot in Illinois again. Not for business. Not for pleasure. Not to change planes at O'Hare. If I see him in my city, the truce is off and he's dead. We clear. Mickey looked at his nephew, who looked like he wanted to protest but knew better. Clear. Then we have a deal. We shook on it, and just like that, the immediate threat was over. But as I walked back to my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just traded one problem for a future one. Mickey Moreau wasn't the type to ask for small favors. When he came calling, it would be for something big. Something that might cost me more than I wanted to pay. But for now, Bertha was safe. And that was worth any price. When I got back to Chicago, I found her in the penthouse library, curled up in the leather chair by the window, reading poetry. She looked up when I entered, questions in her eyes. It's done, I said. Mickey called off the contracts. You're safe. The book slipped from her hands. Just like that. Just like that. Well, not quite. I owe him a favor. But you don't need to worry about that. She stood, crossed the room, and wrapped her arms around me. I held her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the steady beat of her heart against my chest. What happens now? She asked. Now you decide what you want. The new identity is still on the table if you want to disappear. Or you can stay. With me. For real. She pulled back enough to look at me. What are you asking, Kim? I wasn't good with words. I was good with action, with violence, with control. But for this woman I'd try. I'm asking if you want to build something with me. Not as my maid. Not as someone I'm protecting. But as my partner. My woman. In my world that means something. Means you're untouchable. It means your family. In your world, she said slowly. The world of violence and blood and organized crime. Yes. I'd be lying if I said that doesn't scare me. But you know what scares me more? The idea of walking away. Of never knowing what this could be. She touched my face and I leaned into it. I've spent years surviving. Maybe it's time I start living. Even if living means loving a dangerous man. Especially if it means loving a dangerous man, I said and kissed her. That night we made it official in the way my world recognized. I called a meeting of my crew at our warehouse in Pilsen. 20 guys, all of them loyal, all of them family in the way that mattered. They stood when I walked in with Bertha at my side. Listen up, I said. This is Bertha. It is mine. That means she's untouchable. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. Anyone who threatens her signs their own death warrant. She has full access to everything I have. She speaks with my voice. We clear. The response was immediate and unanimous. Yes, boss. Sung-ho stepped forward, bowed respectfully to Bertha. Welcome to the family, ma'am. She looked overwhelmed, but she held her head high. Thank you. All of you. I know this life. I've seen what it costs. But I also know that family is worth protecting. And from what I've seen, you all take care of each other. That's more than a lot of respectable people can say. There was a murmur of approval. She'd said the right thing. In our world, loyalty was currency. Family was everything. She understood that instinctively. Over the next 6 months, Bertha transformed. She stopped being the quiet maid who kept her head down and became something else entirely. She learned the business, asked questions, made suggestions. She had a mind for logistics that impressed even Tommy. She reorganized our money laundering operations through the legitimate businesses, found inefficiencies I'd never noticed, saved us millions. But more than that, she made the penthouse a home. She cooked meals that brought the crew together. She remembered birthdays and anniversaries. She checked on the guys' families when they were in the hospital. She became the heart of our operation in a way I never expected. And at night, in the privacy of our bedroom, she was mine. Completely. Utterly. She'd wake from nightmares sometimes, and I'd hold her until the shaking stopped. She'd trace the scars on my knuckles and ask about the stories behind them. We'd talk until dawn about everything and nothing. I taught her how to shoot, how to handle herself if something went wrong. She took to it naturally, and I suspected that learning to defend herself was healing something inside her that Dominic had broken. One night, almost a year after everything started, we were having dinner at Rossi's in the same private room where I'd confronted Dominic. The owner, Giuseppe, had outdone himself. Homemade pasta, wine from his personal cellar, tiramisu that was probably illegal in 3 states. "I have something for you," I said, sliding a small box across the table. Bertha opened it and went very still. Inside was a ring. Not flashy or ostentatious. Just a simple platinum band with a single diamond. Elegant. Like her. "Kim. I know I'm not a good man," I said. "I know I can't promise you a normal life or safety or any of the things most women want. But I can promise you this. I will fight for you every single day for the rest of my life. I will protect you with everything I have. I will choose you over everything else every time. So I'm asking you, Bertha Dupree, whatever your real name is, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "Yes. God help me, yes." I slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly. Course it did. I'd had it made specifically for her. "There's one more thing," she said, wiping her eyes. "My real name. I think it's time you knew. It's Elena. Elena Martinez." "Elena," I repeated, testing the sound of it. "Beautiful. I haven't heard it in so long it almost doesn't sound like me anymore. But I want you to know it. All of me. No more secrets." "No more secrets," I agreed. We were married a month later in a private ceremony at the penthouse. No big production. Just Tommy as my best man, a judge I had in my pocket, and 20 of my closest crew members as witnesses. Elena wore a simple white dress that made her look like an angel, which was ironic considering she was marrying the devil. When the judge pronounced us husband and wife, I kissed her like my life depended on it. Because in a way it did. She'd become my anchor, the one thing that kept me from drowning in the blood and violence of my world. The reception was another story. We rented out the entire top floor of the Peninsula Hotel, and everyone who mattered showed up. Korean crew from across the Midwest, business associates, politicians, even a few cops who were on the payroll. The Irish sent a gift, an antique vase and a note from Mickey that said, "May your union be stronger than our family's past differences." I wasn't sure if it was sincere or a veiled threat, but I accepted it anyway. Elena was radiant that night, dancing and laughing in a way I'd never seen before. This was her choice, her decision, her happiness, and I'd be damned if I let anyone take it from her. Life settled into a rhythm. I ran my empire. She managed the legitimate businesses and kept the crew in line. We were partners in every sense of the word. I still did terrible things, made terrible choices, but I came home to her every night, and somehow that made it bearable. Then, 2 years after we married, Mickey Moreau called in his favor. I was in my office when the call came through. Elena was next to me, going over quarterly reports from our restaurant chain. We'd expanded into Milwaukee and Detroit, and the numbers were looking good. "Lee," Mickey's voice crackled through the speaker. "It's time we had that conversation." My stomach sank. "What do you need?" "There's a shipment coming through Chicago. Sensitive cargo. I need it moved through your territory without interference. 3 days. That's all I'm asking." "What kind of cargo?" "The kind you don't ask questions about." Elena looked up from her reports, immediately alert. She knew what this meant. The favor I'd promised 2 years ago was finally being called in. Give me details, I said. Route. Timeline. Everything. Mickey laid it out. A container ship from Dublin arriving at the port of Chicago. Cargo that needed to be moved to a warehouse in Gary, Indiana, then distributed from there. He needed my crews to run interference with Port Authority, make sure customs didn't look too closely, and provide security for the transport. This cargo, I said carefully. It's not drugs. No drugs. You have my word. Then what? Guns. High-end military hardware being moved to buyers in Detroit. Nothing that'll blow back on you. Guns I could live with. Barely. It was still illegal, still dangerous, but it wasn't drugs. I had lines I wouldn't cross, and flooding Chicago streets with drugs was one of them. 48 hours, I said. Not 3 days. The cargo moves fast and quiet. Your people don't set up shop in my city. They're in and out. We clear. Crystal. I hung up and looked at Elena. She'd gone pale. You're going to do it, she said. It wasn't a question. I don't have a choice. I made a deal. There's always a choice, Kim. Not in my world. You know that. She was quiet for a long moment. If you do this, it changes things. Right now, you control your operation. You decide what crosses your territory. If you start facilitating other people's business, you become a middleman. And middlemen are expendable. She was right and I hated it. But a deal was a deal. I'll make sure we're protected. Extra security. Limited exposure. It'll be fine. You can't know that. I can minimize the risk. Elena stood, paced to the window. When I agreed to this life with you, I knew what I was getting into. But I also knew you had principles. Lines you wouldn't cross. This feels like crossing a line. It's one shipment. One time. Is it? Or is this just the beginning? What happens when Mickey calls in another favor? And another? I didn't have an answer for that. The shipment arrived on a cold Tuesday in February. Everything went according to plan. The cargo cleared customs with the paperwork I'd greased, my crews provided security, and the trucks made it to Gary without incident. Mickey's people were professional, efficient, and gone within 36 hours. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, those guns were used in a shootout on the south side. 8 people dead, including a 10-year-old girl caught in the crossfire. The news plastered her picture everywhere. Big brown eyes, gap-toothed smile, school uniform. Her name was Maria Rodriguez. She'd been walking home from school. I found out through Tommy, who brought me the police report. The guns were traced back to the Dublin shipment. The ones I'd helped move through my territory. I sat in my office, staring at that little girl's picture, and felt something inside me break. It's not your fault, boss, Tommy said quietly. You didn't pull the trigger. I might as well have. Those guns killed her. I put them on the streets. You didn't know. I should have. Elena found me hours later, still sitting in the dark. She'd seen the news. She knew. Talk to me, she said softly. I killed that little girl. No. The people who pulled the trigger killed her. The people who sold those guns killed her. You made a mistake in judgment, but you didn't. Don't. My voice came out harsher than I intended. Don't make excuses for me. I've done terrible things in my life, Elena. I've made peace with that. But I had rules. No kids. No civilians who couldn't defend themselves. And I broke that rule. I let Mickey manipulate me into compromising everything I stand for. She knelt in front of me, took my hands. So what are you going to do? I'm going to make it right. How? I looked at her. This woman who'd seen me at my worst and stayed anyway. By making sure Mickey Moreau regrets ever asking me for that favor. I called in every favor I was owed. Every cop, every fed, every politician who'd taken my money over the years. Within a week, The task force investigating the shooting had traced the guns back to the Irish mob in Boston. The case against Mickey and his operation was airtight. Federal weapons trafficking charges that carried a minimum 20-year sentence. I also made sure Maria Rodriguez's family was taken care of. Anonymous donations covered her funeral. Her parents' mortgage was mysteriously paid off. A college fund appeared for her 3 siblings. It didn't bring her back. Nothing could. But it was something. When Mickey called, furious about the investigation, I didn't answer. When he showed up in Chicago, demanding a meeting, I made him wait. When we finally sat down, it was on my terms. "You set me up," he snarled. "You turned the feds loose on my operation." "No, Mickey. You did this to yourself. You told me it was hardware going to Detroit. You didn't mention it was going to gangbangers who'd use it to shoot up a neighborhood. A little girl died because of guns I helped move. That blood is on both our hands. She was collateral damage. It happens." I grabbed him by the throat, slammed him against the wall. She was 10 years old. She had a name. Maria Rodriguez. She liked drawing and wanted to be a veterinarian. She is not collateral damage. He struggled, but I held firm. "You're going to take a plea deal. You're going to serve your time. And you're going to make sure none of your people ever come after me or mine in retaliation. Because if they do, I won't just turn the feds loose. I'll burn your entire operation to the ground and salt the earth where it stood." "You're signing your own death warrant," he gasped. "Maybe. But I can live with that better than I can live with that little girl's blood on my hands." I let him go, and he stumbled away, coughing. "You've changed, Lee. That woman has made you soft." "No," Elena's voice came from the doorway. I hadn't realized she was there. "He's made himself better. There's a difference." Mickey looked between us, then laughed bitterly. "You two deserve each other. Both of you too weak for this life." "Get out," I said, "before I change my mind about letting you walk out of here." After he left, Elena came to me, wrapped her arms around my waist. "You did the right thing." "Did I? A little girl is still dead." "Yes. But now justice will be served. And you stopped Mickey from doing this to someone else. That matters." I held her close. This woman who'd somehow made me want to be better than I was. "I don't know if I can keep doing this life, knowing that every decision I make could lead to another Maria Rodriguez." "Then don't." I pulled back to look at her. "What?" "Don't keep doing this. We have legitimate businesses now. Real money. Clean money. Tommy can handle the day-to-day operations of everything else. You can step back. We can build something different. People don't just walk away from this life." "Why not? You're the dragon of the North Side. You built this empire. You can reshape it into whatever you want it to be." She made it sound so simple. Maybe it was. Maybe the only thing holding me back was the fear that without the violence and the power, I'd be nothing. But looking at Elena, I realized I already had everything that mattered. "What would we do?" I asked. "Live. Really live. Travel. See those cherry blossoms in Seoul I always dreamed about. Have kids. Grow old. Be boring." "You want kids. With me." She smiled. "I want everything with you. The question is, what do you want?" I'd spent my entire adult life wanting power, control, respect through fear. But standing there with Elena, I realized all I wanted was her. A life with her. A future that didn't end in blood and violence. "I want boring," I said. "I want cherry blossoms and kids and growing old with you. I want to be the man you see when you look at me, not the monster everyone else fears." "Then let's do it. Let's walk away." It took a year to disentangle myself from the empire I'd built. Tommy took over operations, with strict instructions to move everything toward legitimate business over time. I sold off the illegal operations to associates I trusted. I made peace with rivals. I paid off debts and called in markers. And slowly, Kim Lee, the dragon of the North Side, became just Kim Lee. Businessman. A husband. Eventually a father. Elena got pregnant 2 years after we started our new life. We'd moved to a quieter neighborhood, a brownstone in Lincoln Park that was about as far from mob life as you could get while still being in Chicago. She was showing now, 4 months along, and more beautiful than ever. We were in the nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow because we'd decided to be surprised about the gender, when she asked me if I had any regrets about walking away. I considered it. Sometimes, there's a part of me that misses the power, the respect, the feeling that I controlled my own destiny. And now I realize I control my destiny more than I ever did. Back then I was controlled by the life, by expectations and obligations and the need to always be the strongest, the most feared. Now I get to choose. Every day. And I choose this. Choose you. I choose our child. I choose boring. She laughed, that beautiful sound that still made my heart skip. We'll never be boring, Kim. Not completely. We've lived too much for that. She was right. We'd both survived things that should have broken us. We'd both made choices that would haunt us. But we'd also found each other in the darkness and built something that looked like redemption. Our daughter was born in April, during a thunderstorm that shook the windows of Northwestern Memorial Hospital. She came into the world screaming, tiny fists clenched, already fighting. We named her Maria Elena Lee. Maria for the little girl whose death had changed everything. Elena for her mother. Lee for me and the man I was trying to become. Holding her for the first time, I understood what Tommy had meant all those years ago when he'd said family was everything. This tiny person, this perfect combination of me and Elena, was my whole world now. And I'd burn that world down before I let anyone hurt her the way Dominic had hurt her mother, the way my choices had hurt Maria Rodriguez. She's perfect, Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. Just like her mother, I said and meant it. Years passed. Maria grew into a bright, fierce little girl with her mother's eyes and my stubborn streak. We had a son next, Daniel, who was quieter but no less determined. We traveled. We saw the cherry blossoms in Seoul like Elena had always dreamed. We were happy. But the past doesn't stay buried forever. Maria was 7 when Dominic Moreau found us. I'd let my guard down. That was my mistake. We were at Navy Pier, a normal family outing on a Saturday afternoon. Maria was begging for cotton candy. Daniel was asleep in his stroller. Elena was laughing at something I'd said. Then I saw him. Dominic Moreau, older now, harder looking, standing by the carousel. Our eyes met across the crowd, and I saw the recognition, the rage, the promise of violence. I moved immediately, positioning myself between him and my family. Elena, take the kids. Now. She didn't question. She'd been living a normal life for years, but she still remembered. She grabbed Maria's hand and the stroller and moved toward the exit. Dominic started walking toward us. I met him halfway, blocking his path. Lee, he said, his voice dripping with venom. And Elena. Or should I say Bertha? Or is it Elena now? Hard to keep track of all the identities. You're violating the agreement, I said quietly. You're not supposed to be in Illinois. Agreement's dead. Mickey died in prison last year. Heart attack. Which means I don't owe you shit. My mind raced. Mickey was dead. The truce was void. And Dominic looked like a man with nothing to lose. What do you want? I want my wife back. I want my life back. You took everything from me, Lee. My family blamed me for Mickey going to prison. Said I brought you into our lives. They cut me off. I've spent the last 9 years scraping by, watching her live in luxury with you and your bastard kids. Those kids are innocent. Whatever you want from me, from her, they're not part of this. Everything she has is mine, including the brats. I hit him. Right there in the middle of Navy Pier, surrounded by families and tourists and cotton candy vendors. I hit him hard enough to hear something crack in his jaw. He went down, and I was on top of him. Years of civilized living stripped away in an instant. "You don't touch my family," I growled. "You don't look at them. You don't think about them. You violated the agreement by coming here. That means you're fair game." Security was moving toward us, but Dominic laughed through his broken jaw. "Kill me. Go ahead. But I'm not alone. Got friends now. Friends who know where you live, where your daughter goes to school, where your wife gets her morning coffee. You can't protect them all the time." He was right, and that terrified me more than anything. I was arrested for assault. Spent the night in Cook County lockup before my lawyer got me out. But the damage was done. Dominic was alive. And now he knew how to hurt me. When I got home, Elena was in the kitchen, both kids asleep upstairs. She looked at my bruised knuckles and didn't say anything. Just poured us both coffee and sat across from me. "He found us," she said simply. "Yes. So what do we do?" That was the question. I'd walked away from that life. I'd promised Elena and myself that I'd be better. But how could I be better when my family was in danger? "I'll handle it," I said. "How?" "The way I used to. The way I'm good at." She reached across the table, grabbed my hand. "If you go back to that, you might not come back. The man you've become, the father our children know. You could lose that. Or our children could lose their lives. Elena," he threatened Maria. "He knows where she goes to school. Then we leave. We move. We disappear again. I've done it before. And he'll find us again. Men like Dominic don't stop. You know that better than anyone." She was quiet for a long moment. "So this is it. After everything. After all the work we did to build a different life. We're right back where we started." "No," I said firmly. "We're not. Because this time, I'm not the dragon of the North Side trying to prove something. I'm a father protecting his family. There's a difference." I made one call. Tommy answered on the second ring. "Boss. It's been a while. I need help. The Moreau situation. It's back. Say the word." Within hours, my old crew was mobilized. They'd moved on with their lives too, but loyalty runs deep. Sung Ho, now head of security for a legitimate firm, dropped everything. Park Min-jun, who'd gone to law school and become a defense attorney, started pulling strings. Even the guys who'd fully retired came back. Because in our world, family was everything. And I'd been family to them. We found Dominic in 2 days. He was holed up in a motel in Gary, Indiana, with 3 guys I didn't recognize. Hired muscle, probably. Not good but not pros either. I went in alone. The door to his room wasn't even locked. Arrogant. Or desperate. I found him at the table, drinking cheap whiskey, looking at photos. Photos of Elena. Of our kids. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he said without turning around. "Last chance, Dominic. Walk away. Leave Illinois. Leave Elena alone. Leave my family alone. And I'll let you live." He finally turned to look at me. "You know I can't do that. She humiliated me. You humiliated me. I've got nothing left but making you feel what I felt. You felt that way because you're a coward who beats women and blames everyone else for your failures." He stood swaying slightly. "Drunk. But that made this easier. Tell me something, Lee. Was she worth it? Worth destroying the truce? Worth all this trouble? Every second?" He lunged at me with a knife I hadn't seen him draw. But I was ready. Years of peaceful living hadn't made me soft. Just rusty. Muscle memory kicked in. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, twisted until the knife clattered to the floor. Then I broke his arm. He screamed, and his hired muscle burst in. 3 against 1. The old me would have enjoyed the challenge. The new me just wanted it over. It was over in less than 3 minutes. 2 unconscious, 1 running. And Dominic on the floor, cradling his broken arm, crying. I knelt beside him. I'm going to tell you this one more time. You're going to leave Illinois. Tonight. You're going to get help for whatever sickness makes you think you own people. And you're never going to come near Elena or my family again. Because if you do, I won't break your arm next time. I'll kill you. And I'll make it slow. You don't have it in you anymore, he gasped. You've gone soft. Try me. Something in my eyes must have convinced him because he nodded frantically. Okay, babe. I'll go. Swear it. Swear on whatever you hold sacred that you'll stay away. I swear. I swear on my mother's grave. I believed him. Not because he was honorable but because he was terrified. And terror was a better motivator than honor. I left him there and walked out. Sung-ho was waiting in the parking lot with a car. Is it done? He asked. It's done. Did you? No. I let him live. But he won't be back. Sung-ho nodded, understanding. You're not the same man you used to be, boss. That's a good thing. When I got home, Elena was waiting up. I told her everything. About the fight. About my promise to Dominic. About how I'd chosen mercy even though every instinct screamed for violence. Do you think he'll stay away? She asked. I do. But if I'm wrong, if he comes back, I'll end it. Permanently. She nodded, accepting this. We'd both changed, but some things were immutable. I would always protect my family. She would always understand why. I love you, she said simply. I love you too. That night, lying in bed with Elena beside me and my children safe in their rooms, I realized something. I'd spent years trying to atone for my past. Trying to be a better man. But maybe redemption wasn't about erasing who you'd been. Maybe it was about choosing who you wanted to be every single day, even when it was hard. I'd been the dragon of the North Side. I'd been a monster dressed in expensive suits. But now I was a husband, father, a man who'd found love in the most unexpected place and fought like hell to keep it. And if that meant occasionally reaching back into the darkness to protect the light, so be it. Some scars never fully heal. Elena still woke up sometimes from nightmares about Dominic. I still had blood on my hands that no amount of peaceful living would wash away. But we had each other. We had our children. We had a life built on the ruins of who we used to be. And that was enough. So what did you think of Kim and Elena's journey? Could you feel the tension, the transformation, the weight of choices that changed everything? Drop a comment below and tell us what you thought about these characters. Did Kim truly change, or was he always the same man underneath? Was Elena brave or reckless for staying? And where are you watching from? We love hearing from our global family spread all across the world. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button because we drop another powerful story tomorrow that you absolutely cannot miss. Until then, remember, sometimes love doesn't save us from the darkness. It teaches us how to survive it.